May I please have everyone's attention? Before the meeting begins, we ask everyone at this time, please silence your cell phones. The FBISD Board of Trustees meeting is an open meeting for the public to observe the board conducting district business. Therefore, patrons may only address the board during the designated audience item section on the agenda. If you have printed materials you want to give to the board members, you must provide them to the board secretary, Gary Rozier, or to me, and we provide them to the board. We also ask the members of the audience be respectful to others and remain quiet during the meeting so that everyone is able to hear the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, officer. The time is now 6:00 p.m. and this meeting is hereby called to order. We have the presence of a quorum and the meeting has been duly called and notice of the meeting has been posted for the time and manner required by law. Please rise for the pledges of allegiance and remain standing for a silent invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Please remain standing for the silent invocation. You may be seated. First on the agenda this evening are our recognitions.
Thank you, Mr. President. If the board would join me on the floor in front of the dais, we will greet and congratulate outstanding students and staff.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Dupree. First, I would like to invite our outstanding students from Colony Meadows Elementary. Can we please have Reese Payne from 5th grade and Antonio Ponce de Leon from 3rd grade to come forward? These outstanding students were chosen for adhering to the campus student standards called Tigers Values. They have done an outstanding job and we're so proud of them and thank them for being here this evening. Next, we're going to celebrate our outstanding teams from FBISD's Destination Imagination crew. I'd like to invite team manager Linda Christensen to come up and share with us our outstanding teams and students.
Good. The first team we're going to recognize is the Sixth Dimension from Cornerstone Elementary. They placed 23 out of 74 teams at Global Finals. It's important to note that all of these teams that we'll be reading tonight place first in state. So this is the going forward to globals. So Anshul Javeri. Ariel Shah. Rithik Agarwal. Rishabh Agarwal, Emily Chan, Shivani Sundararmurthy, and my co-team manager is Ms. Jagisha Doshi.
Congratulations, Cornerstone. Can we get together for a picture, please? Parents, if you want to take a picture, you're welcome to stand up and take a picture as well. We're going to do photos team by team. Good job. Thank you so much. Another round of applause.
The second team we want to recognize is the Prodigies from Clements High School. They placed 13th out of 50 teams at Globals. Shakar Joshi, Sharvesh Suresh, Anjali Narayan, Kiara Souza, and Ria Patel.
Wonderful. We're going to get a group picture, team. Go ahead and join the board if you would. And our team managers. Yep. Very good. Thank you. Another round of applause.
The next team we're going to recognize is the Radicals from Dulles High School. They placed 8th out of 45 teams. Anshumi Javeri, Shreya Sundaramurthy, Reina Patel, Sachi Jain, Ishan Kade, Ronil Shah, and their team manager is Jigisha Doshi. Face this way. Ronil, face this way, baby. Move over. Get in front of these big people behind you. Well, in Ishan's case, maybe not.
Okay, let's let parents take pictures. We got a couple more. Very good. Congratulations. Thank you.
Our next team is the Trailblazers from Cornerstone Elementary. They placed 9th out of 63 teams. Vivan Joshi, Vivan Kade, Anirudh Popuri, Suhas Vemure, Amika Ray, Meda Menon, Tanvi Janjirala, and Bina Hemkar, their manager.
All right, team, let's get in the middle. Let's see that hardware right up front. Great job. Congratulations. A big round of applause for all of our DI Global teams. Thank you. We've got next a couple more recognition from Rich Point High School. We have some 2019 graduates. We have Brady Sanders and Colby Sanders. If I can please ask them to make their way forward. These are the global champions for the World Scholars Cup, which is an international academic program. I'd like to share with you that the meet was in the Netherlands. They competed with 2,000 students from 51 nations around the world. They ranked in the top 6 in the world, each of them with 4 team events. Individually, Brady finished 12th and Colby finished 14th. And we'd also like to recognize one of their fellow classmates. We have Kiara Bermudez, if she's available to also join them for the picture. This team finished 22nd in the world. Congratulations. Thank you all for coming this evening. We appreciate you. Next, we have the Sartarsha Middle School Symphony Orchestra and their conductor, Ms. Sophia Shea. They were selected as first runner-up in the Texas Middle School Junior High String Honor Orchestra competition. So if they could please come forward. This is the second time this group has won second place in the state. Representing Sartarsha Orchestra, we have Annie Cristiano, Ryan Q, Head Orchestra Director Sophia Shea, and Assistant Director Aaron Simmons. Congratulations to Sartarsha Middle School Symphony Orchestra. Good job, team. Very good. And before we move on to our next recognition, can I please invite, our students from Colony Meadows to come up for a picture? Thank you. Y'all did a great job today. We appreciate you. Big smiles. Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys for coming. At this time, I would like to give a special recognition to Miss Addie Helliger. She's our Vice President for being selected as one of the 2019 Top 30 Influential Women of Houston. And we celebrate Addie for being one of the amazing women who are celebrated for diverse and influential women in Houston and the surrounding area. So we celebrate you, Addie. Congratulations. Yeah, she's got to get in the middle now. Okay. This is the official picture. Good job. We've got one more recognition. I would like to invite Dr. Pam Wells forward, representing Region 4, to the microphone.
Thank you so much. Oops, I guess it might be good if I turn myself on. There we go. Certainly want to thank President Burdine and members of the board, Dr. Dupree, staff and guests for the opportunity and privilege to be with you this evening. I am here to celebrate with you the fact that Dr. Charles Dupree is the 2019 Region 4 Superintendent of the Year. And when you consider that there are more than 1,500 school districts in Texas, it is even more significant that he was selected as one of 5 finalists in the state of Texas. So Dr. Dupree doesn't like this, so I'm probably going to get in trouble, but I'm going to go ahead and share some things that caused Dr. Dupree to be selected by the committee. And I'm very proud to present this award to a distinguished leader who is clearly dedicated to providing excellence in service to children. The Superintendent of the Year program is sponsored annually by the Texas Association of School Boards, and our ESC supports it in Region 4. The award recognizes the visionary leadership and direction of one outstanding superintendent from each of the state's 20 regional service centers. I might tell you that we had many superintendents nominated this year, so that makes it even more significant that Dr. Dupree was selected by a committee of school board members to be honored in Region 4. Clearly, Dr. Dupree has demonstrated repeatedly during his 6 years at Fort Bend ISD that he possesses the vision, talent, commitment, and leadership to work successfully with the district's board, staff, community to make decisions that are truly in the best interest of children. And I know the board is well aware of his many accomplishments, and I know the staff is as well. But for the community, I would like to share a few examples of Dr. Dupree's exceptional leadership that resulted in his selection as Region 4 Superintendent of the Year. His commitment to excellence is evident in these, and I could go on and on and on, but I just chose a few. And then one of them is that 134 campus distinction designations here in Fort Bend ISD, with 40 different campuses receiving at least one distinction designation. The recognition of Fort Bend ISD as the Gaston Caperton Opportunity Honor Roll. This is really important because it demonstrates significant and consistent growth in the number of underrepresented students and students from lower income backgrounds who are participating in AP classes, taking the SAT, and applying to college. And one of the most significant honors that any school district ever could receive, and that is being named the 2018 Best Large School District by the HEB Excellence in Education Awards program. Implementation of innovation communication schools, such as Let's Talk, checking in with Charles, and continuing the conversation helps to open up communication with community stakeholders. And certainly passing a $992.6 million bond referendum, the largest bond program in the district's history. I could go on and on and on, but then I really would be in trouble with Dr. Dupree and, so, and the board. Okay, I'm sorry, but this is my chance to brag on you. I know they don't mind about that. And one of the things that perhaps you might not know is that Dr. Dupree is also a leader of leaders, having just completed service as the chair of the Region 4 ESC Superintendent Study Group. In addition, he currently serves as the state TEA commissioners on the Commissioners Advisory Cabinet of Superintendents, and he is a member of both the Texas Association of School Administrators Executive Committee and Legislative Committee. So this is just a sampling of the many accomplishments that Dr. Dupree and his leadership has leveraged to inspire and equip students for success and to lead efficient and effective district operations. So it is my pleasure to present this clock to you, Dr. Dupree, from Region 4 in recognition of your outstanding achievement. The inscription says, 2019 Superintendent of the Year, Charles Dupree, EDD, Fort Bend ISD. Congratulations, Dr. Dupree.
And this concludes this evening's recognition. Oh,
I'm coming. Trying to hold it the same.
While I have the opportunity and we're doing recognitions, it's my honor and pleasure to recognize our fellow trustee, Mr. Jim Rice. This weekend at the TASB conference, he was named or nominated as the TASB president-elect. So, Mr. Rice, we're all proud of you. It's an honor to serve with you, and I know that you will represent us well along with all the students here in the state of Texas. So, once again, congratulations.
Have a statement here.
Yes, sir. We're going to wait till all these fellows. All right. Can we shut those doors over there, sir? All right. Next on our agenda are our audience items, but before we do that, I'd like to turn the mic over to Dr. Dupree for just a minute.
Thank you, Mr. Burdine. I would like to take a moment just to clarify and share some information that relates to item 11C6B on tonight's agenda that has to do with the consideration of reinterment services related to the Sugar Land 95. As we continue to honor and memorialize the Sugar Land 95, I want to clarify for the community our plan to reinter the remains with dignity and respect. Regrettably, and quite unfortunately, some who have been involved are choosing not to listen to the facts and I want to share with you the latest court filing that illustrates this blatant disregard for the facts. There's an image on the screen. It's kind of small, but I can read it from here, so most of you probably can as well. Attorneys for Michael Elliott have joined in Scott West's motion asking the Court of Appeals, which has already stayed all other previous actions, to grant an injunction against the district. I will remind you that these attorneys appointed by Judge Shoemake. Because of the district's action, these attorneys no longer have authority. Well, today, they are at it again. They're inserting themselves into something they have already been told to stay out of. Essentially, they have asked the Court of Appeals to intervene and claim, and I'm quoting directly from the filing you see on the screen, they're claiming that Fort Bend ISD's plan to bury them all in a mass grave with no agreement with the county to ensure the appropriate memorial for each lost soul is unbelievably callous and lacks awareness of the sentiment of the community. First of all, mass grave. You were all here last week when we went into detail about what the reinterment would look like, down to seeing with your own eyes the approximate size of the casket we will use and the finish of the caskets. We explained there would be one casket for each individual that has been carefully cataloged and marked, and that they will be properly embalmed. They will be placed where they were found. In no way can our plan be described as a mass grave, and for someone to describe it as such is incomprehensible and, in my view, disgusting and hurtful, not only to this community but to the Sugarland 95. They are not a political football, which is coming to bear in this event. And that is what I would describe as unbelievably callous. I would also like to address the sentiment of our community. We heard loud and clear that there was a desire to reinter the bodies where they were found. So we changed course and went from recommending that they be removed and placed at the old Imperial Farm Cemetery to our current plan of reinterring on site. We modified the James Reese Career and Technical Center, we allocated more recesses, we garnered more feedback, and we continued to look for partners. We are thankful to the county for stepping forward and joining us for possible future memorialization. However, to be clear, with or without an agreement with the county, our plan is to reinter these individuals at the site at which they were found. This is a sentiment of the community, and for Mr. West and Mr. Elliott to say otherwise illustrates their unwillingness to understand that and begs the question of their motives. They are out of touch, and they have been repeatedly told by the Court of Appeals to stop. The contract you have before you tonight, Board, is the next step in this process. Our goal is, and always has been, to memorialize the Sugarland 95 with dignity and respect. Our responsibility is to ensure these remains are reinterred and that we all move forward in a positive and healthy way that tells the truth about the horrific practices of the state-sanctioned convict leasing system. We have to learn from the past, and we have to do the right thing and keep the politics out of it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Dr. Dupree. With that being said, first on our audience items, we will have Mr. Mike Schofield. Will you please step to the microphone? Thank you, Mr. Schofield. You will have 3 minutes, and Mr. Rosenthal will give you a 30-second warning.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is this working? I missed the last meeting where we discussed, the board discussed a casket type deal to put all the remains in, but let me put out an idea that might be a compromise. Maybe, I think it's probably too late, but I've been out there quite a few times, and as y'all know, I really push for the CTE Center. That's an awful big chunk of land. And my recommendation was somehow we accumulate all these remains and put them in a memorial and put a plaque on the memorial to tell about the practices and everything, and then utilize that land to finish the school. I may be a little late to the party on this, but that's just what I suggest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schofield. Our next speaker is Gloria Ruback. Thank you for being here, ma'am. Please step up to the microphone and make sure that it's on. Yes, ma'am. You have 3 minutes to address the board, and Mr. Rosenthal will let you know when you have 30 seconds left.
Okay. I wanted to speak about the Sugarland 95. I'm a retired educator. I'm also a prison reform activist, and I have been studying the Texas Department of Corrections for close to 50 years now. I think it should have been clear, or should be clear to anybody that lives in Sugarland or Fort Bend, that this land is probably filled with graves of people who died during the convict lease program. As has been made public now, these people who were forced to work were actually treated worse than slaves because the plantation owners had no investment in them. If they died by wherever we're building buildings, they were left there because they were easily replaced. I think I'm speaking with a friend of mine who's African American. She's a PhD at Texas A&M, Andrea Roberts, whose family has lived out here for generations and generations and generations. I am wondering what has been done to inform the African American community here in Fort Bend about how they can proceed to find out if their great-great-grandparents are among the Sugarland 95. And have there been meetings with the leaders of the black community to determine this? I think before anybody is reburied, reinterred anywhere, there needs to be more work done with the community on this. The people whose remains were found, I think we owe them this. And I would imagine that the building that was left on that property probably also has remains under it. So the other thing is Fort Bend County and Sugarland shouldn't be building anything until they check the earth, and I know there's scientific ways to do that now. That should be the first thing done, because this land that we are standing on right now, this was slave plantations. This was land that after slavery, after emancipation, became worse than slavery. We have a duty to the ancestors of the African Americans alive today to do that. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, ma'am. If you can please hold your applause. Will Swatara please stand up? And then after Swatara, Coffee Taharka, I hope I'm saying that correctly, will be next. Thank you for being here this evening, ma'am. You're going to have 3 minutes to address the board, and Mr. Rosenthal will give you 30 seconds until your time will be up.
Start now?
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Injunctions aren't being filed against the district because people are attacking the district and ignoring how great and thoughtful and perfect and beautiful Fort Bend ISD is. It's because you are doing something wrong, okay? There's nothing to gain from the community or at Lightums or Masters in Chancery filing injunctions against you from reinterring these remains that you don't have the right to make end-all, be-all decisions about as a district solely. And we're not talking about taking considerations from advisory committee members and, oh, we want to hear what you have to say, but we're not going to actually do it type of information. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the finite decisions that you think you have the right to make and you don't. What we saw last week in that video was fake concern, fake transparency, and fake honor. The only thing that video reveals is how Fort Bend ISD ignored the numerous warning signs and red flags brought before them before they even began building that school that they rushed to build. Despite warnings from Mr. Moore, who literally told them remains were likely there, they moved forward anyway. Even though the technology is available to scan and survey for graves, they chose not to use it. And when the remains were found, they chose to build a school anyway and remove just a section. Oh, we've allotted 10 acres for a designated cemetery area. All these acres belong to my ancestors. You can't allot us 10 acres covered with debris and fire hydrants and water bottles and whatever else you want to have out there before you threw the gate up. We were out there before you rushed and swept and threw the gate up to make it seem like you've been carrying all this time in the property where they were allegedly originally found. Despite all these warning signs, you built the school anyway. And for a district to feel comfortable with making end-all be-all decisions regarding these victims of crimes against humanity without the community, without their families, without their names, against the wishes of the court is disgusting to me, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. It's frightening to me that this panel of individuals is responsible for educating our children and influencing their moral compasses, when all I've experienced from you is lies and attempted manipulation. Manipulation. How is the district comfortable with having students attend class on the campus with the situation of this magnitude still in limbo, with remains allegedly on site? Students walking past remains every day. Who knows? We don't know where they are. I haven't seen them. Have you? This is a no-brainer. The bottom line is that school should have never been built on that site whatsoever. All the acreage belongs to those men, their families, those boys, those elders, those victims of crimes against humanity.
Thank you very much. Can you please hold your applause so we can continue? Thank you very much for being here this evening, ma'am. We appreciate you being here. Mr. Kofi Taharka, did I say that correctly, sir?
Yeah, Kofi Taharka, National Black United Front.
Thank you for being here.
And I left one with the secretary, so it's on the record. This is regarding the Sugar Land 95. The National Black United Front, nor our diverse allies locally or nationally, are not seeking financial gain in the form of grants, consultation fees, or contracts with respect to the Sugar Land 95. Our interest as communal descendants of the Sugar Land 95 rests solely in our longstanding history of African ancestral veneration and social justice activism. We come before you not to appeal to your moral, political, or legal conscience, for you have proven through your actions relative to the Sugar Land 95 that you have none. The board of the Fort Bend Independent School District has abdicated its fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers of Fort Bend County. You have failed to properly take advantage of the opportunity presented to you with this historic archaeological find by the following. 1, starting construction on the James Reese Center after having been forewarned that there were highly probable human remains on the site by Mr. Reginald Moore. 2, not conducting the proper archaeological testing on the site before construction began. 3, fighting against legal oversight of the project once the remains had been revealed. 4, failing to enlist culturally competent professionals in assorted fields as suggested by the National Black United Front, and the guidepost is the African Burial Ground in New York City. 5, failing to engage in a meaningful and robust communal descendant engagement. Your efforts in this arena have been nothing more than a public relations ploy. Your superintendent, Dr. Charles Dupree, operating at your behest, has disparaged communal descendants as quote-unquote outside activists. Your board president, Mr. Jason Burdine, has stated he doesn't know why people are protesting Fort Bend ISD regarding the Sugar Land 95. These statements clearly illustrate your complete ignorance of the scope of this find and history itself. Are you not aware that global white supremacists use the similar terminology when referring to Dr. Martin Luther King, Minister Malcolm X, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, the Black Panther Party, and many others throughout this 400+ year sojourn of African people in America? 6, you have failed to engage in a robust search for lineal descendants before any discussion of reinterment of remains. 7, you reneged on your prior financial commitment of $1 million to Fort Bend County. 7,
sir.
8,
Time is up.
attempted to bamboozle the public by placing an African American funeral home to be contracted for reinterment. I'm almost finished.
All right.
All of your infractions. thereby placing a black face
Sir.
on your desecration.
Sir,
I'm
thank you
almost
very
finished.
much. Your time is up.
I'm almost finished.
No.
Considering the crimes against humanity, I'm almost finished, brothers. The crimes against humanity, this is
Sir.
of the Sugar Land 95, you compounded this. You compounded this. Wait a minute, brother.
No.
Brother, don't make them do this to you. I can
Sir.
talk loud enough to hear.
Sir, thank you very much for being here
You
this
need to
evening.
resign.
Up next.
Dupree, you need to resign.
Up
And
next,
Green, you need to
Mr. Reginald
resign.
Moore.
And those of you who've been complicit with him, y'all need to resign.
Thank you.
Don't let them make you do this, brother. Hold up.
Sir, officers.
I'm gonna leave.
Officers.
Freedom ain't free. You need to
Officers.
You need to resign.
Freedom ain't free.
You need to resign.
Let me tell you about the hellhole on the Brazos.
Sir.
This area here was so bad, they call this area the hellhole.
Wait
on
a
the
second.
Brazos. Am I ready to speak?
No, sir.
I thought you said come up to speak. Resident Moore.
No. Wait one sec, sir. Wait 1 second, please. Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you for having me.
You will have 3 minutes to speak to address the board, and Mr. Rosenthal will let you know when you have 30 seconds left. Please start when you're ready.
Freedom ain't free. This here area here used to be called a hellhole on the Brazos. The people were treated here so bad it was inhumane. They were being treated today in death the way they were treated when they were alive. And I have a copy here of a title report that says in Stuart Title that Fort Bend Independent School District should have known that there was bodies possibly there. Because there was a camp there that says you have a TDC camp here. Talked to Brian Collier. They acknowledged that the bodies should have been accounted for because those were their bodies from the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. That was in 01. In 03, I'm talking to the General Land Office when they sold the property to Newland Development and City of Sugar Land that sold it to y'all. All these transactions happen, and there's history of us telling them about this tract of land and the possibilities and knowing that there were bodies there. I knew it was bodies there. And everybody, if you do your research and due diligence, should have known. You guys missed the boat with the title company. The title company going to have to lie and say, well, we didn't tell them about it. If you did your title search, which I have it here, went back to the sovereignty of the land, you knew that that was a plantation. You knew it was owned by Texas Department of Criminal Justice. You knew it was a camp that if you did that, you were trying to circumvent the law until you got busted. Okay, I busted you, then you're trying to hold face like we just didn't know. You did know. It was so obvious there that a blind person could see. Now you're jumping on Scott West and the people trying to intervene as a mediator and calling them the culprits when you guys are the culprits. They didn't ask to be on Earth. I told you that in 03. Me and P.J. Matthews came and talked to Alan Bogart in 05. Told him that there was bodies there. The Black United Front came down here in 05. Talked to the Sugar Mill. You knew about it. There's a marker right there. There's another grave called Imperial 1. Texas Monthly just put an article out here, coming out here now, talking about to rewrite history. They got us in here. 2016, I'm in the front page of the Texas Monthly talking about this. Okay? You guys had all the evidence in the world that you wanted to find it. You wanted to circumvent it. And in 11,
30 seconds.
You knew that there was a possibility that it was graves here. You had another piece of land you could have built on, and you decided to take this land with these encumbrances on it. Why? Why did you use the other piece of land? If you did your due diligence, environmental reports, studies, and read this here, you would have done it. It's a travesty. This is a crime against humanity and a genocide.
Please.
That's what it was. You worked them to death. And then in death,
Time
you
is up.
still disrespect them.
Thank you for being here this evening, sir. Please hold your applause. Next, Terry Collins. While speakers are speaking, will the audience please hold their applause so we can hear them? Thank you for being here this evening, ma'am.
Yes,
You
greetings.
have
How are
3
you?
minutes. You'll
Yes,
have a
thank
30
you.
seconds. Mr. Rosenthal will give you a 30-second warning before your time's up.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I was here last week and I'm looking at the video and all of that, and my concern is that if you decide to go on and return and families show up and say, well, I want my loved one, are you going to dig them up? Or are you going to charge the families? Well, you know, it's going to be your choice and your cost to dig them up. What child wants to look out of a window of a school and see you digging up a grave of someone so they can take them? To me, you need to find out who they are first and get all of that out the way, and then you can be able to do something else. But until you find out who they are, to me, that's disrespectful. And then you said you're going to have some kind of ceremony. Everybody may not be of Christian faith. They may not be of whatever. You have a non-denominational, but still, to me, it's disrespectful. You need to find out who they are. We understand why they were put there. We need to find out who they are, who their families are. And I believe that, you know, if you want to put them in the ground, what's going to happen? That's my question when it's time to dig them up again. Are you going to, every week, a family comes up and you're going to just have holes in the backyard so the children can look and see all the, you know, what are they doing? They're excavating another grave. That's disrespectful, and it's unfair to the children. You know, why would you build a school right next to all of that? I wouldn't want my child there at all, because it's just too much controversy, you know? And even though they're getting this great education, they're looking in the backyard of some place that's being desecrated. People, you know, standing up and crying and fighting over this land. They want to know why you put it there. Why would you put it there? Why can't we have our schools someplace else where we can feel comfortable and we can learn? Not that we can look in the back and see people digging up graves, because that's what's going to happen. Because as soon as they find out who they are, families are going to come forth, and they're going to want their people. So after you put that dirt down, you're going to have to dig it up.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Please hold your applause. Next, Mr. Sam Collins. Thank you for being here this evening, sir.
Good evening.
You'll
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Samuel Collins III. I'm on the board with the National Trust for Historic Preservation as one of the representatives for the state of Texas. James Baldwin has a quote: "I can't believe what you say because I see what you do." Fort Bend ISD has the legal right to make the decision tonight to approve it, but we know that slavery was legal, Jim Crow was legal, segregation was legal, but it wasn't right. Just because you have a legal right and you have been advised by your counsel to do it, the world is watching. The National Trust has invited me to their national conference next month, October 11th, to report back what's happening in Fort Bend ISD. The world is watching Fort Bend ISD. I am here to speak against reinterring the bodies and working with the county and allowing the county to do the proper thing. Just because it's cheaper for you to do it, cheaper is not always right. Just because it's legal for you to do it, legal is not always right. I would hope that the board, Maya Angelou has a quote: "History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again." I would hope that the board members and the superintendent would have the courage to pause for a moment and honor the agreement that you made with the county and allow the county to do the reinterment and not the district to do reinterment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, Original Lewis. Thank you for being here. You'll have 3 minutes, and Mr. Rosenthal will let you know you have 30 seconds left.
Thank you. Now, usually when I come to speak publicly to the board, something wrong has or is happening in the Hightower community, but not today. Today, I am coming to thank you, specifically the way this board and this administration has handled the design process for Middle School 16 is phenomenal. You all have allowed the community to have input and answer every question we could possibly think of when designing this building. Special thanks to Oscar Perez's team, especially Ms. Ashley Dixon, and this board who reached out to the Hightower community to ensure our voices were heard. We are beyond proud that this innovative school will be in our community. This environmentally friendly and sustainable building is only the second of its kind in the state of Texas, and we are excited that it will be housed in the Hightower feeder pattern. Please vote yes on moving forward with this design, and please keep working with our community. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate you being here. Next, Mr. William Beish. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, and I apologize. Thank you for being here this evening, sir. Please step up to the microphone. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board, and Mr. Rosenthal will let you know when you have 30 seconds left.
How do I make it
There you go.
So I'm going to change the subject to school safety, about what happened on Wednesday and Thursday. How there was I think you made a very bad decision about the keeping schools open on Thursday with a flash flood watch in Fort Bend County. And it was starting to flood around the area of my middle school, and the school was still open. So I think you should start being more prepared for the floods and natural disasters happening, and close the schools in advance before, like, one day last year, they canceled school when they already sent the buses out and everything, and they already canceled the school. They canceled school as soon as the buses picked everybody up. So, like, they should have closed it sooner before everybody was able to get there, because it took up more time. And, like, they had warnings all over the TV about flash floods and stuff. You could like on ABC 13, the app on ABC13.com. I was looking at the flash flood warnings on Thursday morning before I went to school. I saw Fort Bend County was there. So I think you should close schools in advance before natural disasters. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate you being here this evening. It takes a lot to stand up to the microphone and speak to the board, so we appreciate you, sir. Next, Salvador Herrera.
Hello. I'm actually here about James Reese Technical Center, but it's not about the Sugar Land 95, even though I stand in solidarity with their efforts. I'm here because Fort Bend ISD actually had a case of prevailing wage violations, and the Design and Construction Department did nothing about it. We had ample proof. We had proof that they were the company was actually stealing the wages of the workers, and we sent it to the Design and Construction Department. You know what they said? We find their evidence not sufficient to actually fight or open an investigation to get the workers their money back. We try to, in Texas, we try to have workers voice their voice when there's an issue like this at work, but if they're not treated with the respect when they actually make a claim of having their wages stolen or not being paid the proper wages, how are they supposed to actually come forward in the future if the one time that they are raising their voices, they aren't heard? And I don't know if the person in charge of the Design and Construction Department is here today, but there's something that needs to change. There needs to be more nitpickiness with how things are enforced, how specs are enforced, and there needs to be some sort of enforcement instead of a hands-off approach. So the ask for the school board here is to fix that issue and actually sit down with the community to create these specs and create this enforcement process that is non-existent here in Fort Bend ISD, because I hear there's more development, and I'm pretty sure wages are gonna get stolen there. Overtime is not gonna get paid. What are you guys gonna do about it?
Thank you for being here, sir. Please hold your applause. Up next, Miss Amy Liu.
Actually, Amy Liu is one of the students. I'll start. So my name is Judy Day. I'm a parent from Clements. So today I'm here on a different topic. I'm here to thank you, all of you, all the board member and Dr. Dupre and our principal, Mr. Yaffe, to support our Latin program in Clements. So I was writing a speech last week, and I reached out to the students. I wanted to hear their opinions. And then I realized actually it's the best if they can tell their stories with you tonight. So we have 5 students here, and they're gonna share their experience with you. But thank you so much for all the work, and you work together to support our program in Clements. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Day. First up is this Amy? Okay. Can you pronounce your last name correctly?
Liu, L-I-U, Liu.
Okay, thank you. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Ms. Rosenthal will give you 30-second warning.
Bona Vespera. Good evening. My name is Amy Liu, and I'm a junior at Clemens High School. I'm here today with my peers Amy Zhou, Edward Zhang, Claire Q, and Eric Mao. We would first like to extend our gratitude towards the FBISD board members and Mr. Yaffe for their continued interest in keeping the Latin program alive at Clemens. For the past 3 years, Latin has gifted me with a new arsenal of knowledge and unforgettable memories. I felt like I had just begun to hit my stride this past school year, being motivated to learn Latin, to expand my understanding of Roman history and mythology, and to participate in competitions with my team. It pains me to think that my younger peers will possibly never be able to experience the same joys in putting their knowledge to the test while feeling the rush of adrenaline when their name is called to receive an award. I believe that the advantages of learning Latin are undervalued. While schools are increasingly cutting their classics programs because Latin is a so-called dead language, I have never understood the English language better than I do now after learning Latin. The principles of verb conjugation and participles have aided my mastery of English grammar. Knowing Latin word roots makes developing my vocabulary that much more efficient. Aside from the academic advantage, Latin has provided me with a community of students, each sharing a common interest for the classics. This community created a nurturing learning environment, bestowing upon me a desire to further my classical knowledge both inside and outside the classroom. The value of Latin is not only seen by its beneficiaries. My friend once commented on how she regretted not selecting Latin as her high school language course. She remarked how Latin had what her class lacked: an intimate learning experience coupled with personal connections with peers and my teacher, Mr. Brown. I have found immense value in learning Latin here at Clemens, and I ask that you please do not deprive future students of the same opportunity. Now I'd like to hand it off to my peers who will be sharing their personal experiences with Latin and its real-world applications.
Thank you very much. Next is Claire.
Sorry, I'm Amy Zhao.
Amy, okay. I'm sorry. Wait 1 second if you don't mind. Okay. Thank you, Amy. You'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, I'm Amy Zhao. I'm a junior at Clemens, and I'm in my 3rd year of Latin this school year. To understand Latin, we must start at the beginning. And for me, the start of it all was an utter total failure, not qualifying for the Chinese for Native Speakers course. What does that say about someone who grew up on years of Chinese classes? It says that I didn't know Chinese. I didn't understand the language no matter how many drills I did or worksheets I completed. So instead I chose to take a language I had absolutely no connection to, Latin. But how did I get from being a struggling Chinese student to competing in grammar events with the Junior Classical League? You've all probably heard of what a large influence Latin has had on English. We see and hear phrases like per se, bona fide, status quo, etc. in our writings and media. Examine your dollar bill and you'll find a pluribus unum, out of many one, the United States motto. In inspirational Pinterest posts and backs of trendy iPhone cases, Carpe Diem, seize the day, Horus 23 BCE. It's 2019, but it's also 2019 AD, Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord. But you've probably never stopped to think about words like ego, focus, honor, all of which come directly from the Latin language. In fact, around 10% of the Latin vocabulary has found its way into English without an intermediary. And around half of all words in the English language has Latin roots. Unnoticed, Latin slips into our daily lives. I'm constantly surprising myself in my connections between Latin and English. When school started this year, my friend told me about her summer job. She was working as a museum docent. I'd never heard of the English word before, but I hadn't needed to. Docent, the Latin word for they teach. Just last Thursday, as I sat in 6th period organic chemistry, we talked about formic acid. In our notes, the subtitle read, from the Latin word for ant, formica. Even as I parsed through the agenda for today's meeting, I was met with the word quorum, from quorum vos unum esse volumus, of whom we wish that you be one. Latin appears in our language not only in the literal sense, but also in the forms and styles of our writing, the imprints left behind by classical writers, the poems of Virgil, the rhetoric of Cicero, the histories of Livy, the philosophies of Seneca. Their influence on our language is multifarious. So it's not just the words themselves that have reshaped my outlook on things. So too have I better grasped the way language works, what a language actually needs to be coherent, how words weave themselves into meaning. More than ever before, I'm awakened to a way of seeing what's underneath our daily interactions. This is what sets Latin apart from other languages.
30
Latin gives
seconds.
students the opportunity to see language from a new old perspective, to comprehend things at their most base form, to receive the